we'll begin with the lesson The Portrait of a Lady, written by Khushwant Singh. Let me give a small description about the author. Khushwant Singh is an Indo-Anglican novelist. He is a prominent Indian novelist and journalist. Singh's weekly column, With Malice Towards One and All, carried by several Indian newspapers, is among the most widely read columns in the country. He is the best known for his penchant secularism, his humor, and an abiding love of poetry. He is the recipient of the Padma Bhushan in 1974 and Padma Vibhushan in 2007. He was one of the editors of the famed Illustrated Weekly of India. His works include A History of the Sikhs, Train to Pakistan, Delhi, etc. So now let us begin the lesson. In this lesson, the author Khushwant Singh portrays the character of his grandmother and shares his life experiences with her. We all have certain experiences with our grandmothers, right, children? We love our grandparents very much. So, here he also describes his grandmother. The grandmother had always been short and fat and slightly bent. Her face was a crisscross of wrinkles running from every way. She was old, so terribly old that she could not have grown older and had stayed at the same age for 20 years. She could never have been pretty, but she was always beautiful. She hobbled out the house in spotless white, with one hand resting on her waist to balance her stoop and the other telling the beads of her rosary. Her silver locks were scattered untidily over her pale face, and her lips constantly moved in landscape in the mountains. And this is all about the character of the grandmother. The author and his grandmother were good friends. He lived with her when his parents stayed in the city. So here the author lived with his grandmother and their parents were outside in the city. She used to get him ready for school and accompany him to school and spent her day in the temple attached to school and brought him back home in the evening. She fed the street dogs with stale chapatis. So this grandmother used to take the boy to the school, and as every grandmothers do, and she used to love the author very much. The priest taught them the alphabet and the morning prayer, while the children sat in the rows on either side of the veranda singing the alphabet or the prayers in the chorus. And the grandmother would sit inside reading the scriptures, that means the holy book. Now, when the author went up to university, now the author grows up and he goes up to the university. Now his link with his grandmother was broken. Link was broken, that means he went far from his grandmother. She would spend her whole day. Now even the grandmother was alone and she spent her whole day reciting the prayers while spinning her wheel. In the afternoon, she would feed the sparrows and was relaxed doing so. When the author went abroad, now from after finishing his studies, the author goes to the foreign country and the grandmother sent him with a smile and kissed his forehead silently. She felt bad that he is going abroad, but still she sent him with a smiling face. Now after 5 years, when he returned home, that means the author comes back after 5 years, and he found his granny in the same condition. She looked the same and she welcomed the author with a charming face and always reciting the prayers. On the first day of his arrival, so now the author has arrived, and that is the first day, she spent time with him. She spent the whole day talking and smiling with his grandson and her sparrows feeding them. In the evening, she did not pray but played the drum and sang songs with neighbor women in celebration of his arrival. So she was so happy that day she did not pray to God, and she only took a drum and she sang the songs, and with the neighbor women she celebrated her grandson's arrival. That was the first day she missed her prayers. The next morning, she was ill. Suddenly, the grandmother was ill and she had a mild fever. She told that her end was near, and she laid peacefully in the bed, praying and reciting with the beads, and passed away peacefully. As the sun was setting, while she lay dead with stiff wrap in the red shroud, thousands of sparrows sat scattered on the floor without any chirping. So when she was laid dead, even the sparrows, thousands of sparrows, sat on the floor, and they did not make a single sound. They did not chirp a little also. And though the bread pieces were spread for them, so the bread pieces were spread for them, but the sparrows did not pay any attention towards the bread crumbs. And when the dead body was taken off, even the sparrows flew away quietly, leaving the bread pieces as they were. So, this is all about the story of the grandmother written by Khushwant Singh. Thank you, students.